So, Ben, have you ever been accused of flip-flopping your views on something as a pastor?
What do you mean, Mike? Can you be a little more specific?
Well, yeah, okay. Have you ever told a church board maybe that you were going to do one thing and then you did something else later?
I suppose it's...
I thought so. Goodness gracious, you don't have any integrity.
Dude, hang on a moment. There have been times when I believed one way, and then somebody was able to change my mind and educate me.
Okay, educate you? That doesn't count. But there were other times, right?
Well, there's been times when I realized that my original idea was actually good, but it might have been harmful to somebody else. So I decided not to pursue it for the greater good.
No. That's not what I'm asking, dude. See, our listeners want to know why you routinely preach for 40, 50, or 60 minutes when you promised in your interview that you would never go over 30 minutes.
I don't remember ever saying that.
I'm sure you did, man. I'm sure. I heard it from another member, actually. And so, listen, my family is going to another church now because of it.
Wait, really? What? Wait, before you go, let's explore this a little bit. You're accusing me of not having integrity, and maybe before you cancel me, maybe we could find a compassionate middle ground.
Absolutely not.
Great.
Okay, fine. I guess we could have a discussion about integrity because this isn't your normal Bible talk. It's episode 34 of the Thinking Cup podcast, and it starts now.
2 men.
Dude. Come on, dude.
2 cups of coffee.
I've never had anything like this.
1 table.
This is not your normal Bible talk.
This is a podcast.
Bringing the tough topics to sip on.
Guacamole or guacamole?
Whatever.
Ben Orian.
I don't understand people most of the time.
Mike Colburn.
I don't understand myself most of the time.
This is not your normal Bible talk.
I don't understand you most of the time.
It's the Thinking Cup podcast.
We are going way off the rails now.
Welcome to the Thinking Cup podcast.
Hey, welcome back to the Thinking Cup podcast, wherever you're listening from, wherever you may be, in your car, at work, at home, playing hooky, doing whatever you're doing. Thanks.
Is that a word these days? How old are you, Ben?
I guess I'm older than I realized. Everybody older than me knows what I just said. Wherever you are, thanks for making us a part of your playlist. You can always find us on iHeart, Pandora, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, our favorite is YouTube channel. So now that everybody knows how old I am, how are you doing, Mike?
I feel young now that you ask. I feel really, really good. No, man, it is good to see different weather outside. It's good to see some warmth. Things are good. Actually, my entire family this week is testing for a black belt.
Hey. You cannot practice on me.
All I can say is some people at church better watch out. I'm coming for you. I'm just kidding.
We're gonna get them into submission one way or another. Huh?
That's right. That's how you can convert people. You know.
That's right. So we're talking about integrity today, and I thought it was interesting that we were listening as the show is opening. We're listening to our own introduction. 2 guys, 2 cups of coffee, 1 table. And you look down, and all of a sudden, we've got 2 tables put together.
That's what you call good integrity,
right
there.
That's good integrity. All right, on to more important things. What
Yeah.
are we drinking today?
Oh, man, I am super glad you asked. So check this out, Columbia coffee, and this is exactly how you pronounce this, by the way. Marlenis Impaki.
I have no idea what you just said.
I don't either, but it's got notes of raspberry, baking spices, and citrus.
Wow.
So, this is unique. It's different. Can I just say that? It's different.
It is different.
And I think probably the different part is the combination of the coffee notes and the syrup. Sometimes they go well together as we experiment with these, and sometimes they don't go super well.
As is evidenced by the high pitch of your voice just now.
Actually, that's puberty.
How old are you, Mike?
Let me just say I age well, okay? I age really well.
Oh, my goodness. So we are actually probably not today, but next week we'll actually start being a little more serious with a little more science in how we rate our coffees. And that's one of the ratings is what condiments you use. Do you use milk and cream and sugar? Which I've always said I'll quit drinking coffee as soon as I find a better way to get it down without cream and sugar. I like cream and sugar, but so how are you? I've rated the last couple of weeks. How are you rating today?
So I think last week, if I remember right, and I'm just going off memory, I think I rated it 9.2 last week.
You were in the 9s. Well, it was Juan.
I know. Want another one? This one, so it is not in this capacity, in this type of drink, it is not as good as last week. I have had this coffee in different forms. I've had it as Americano, and I've had it as drip. And honestly, the best way to drink this particular type is as an Americano. It is very good as an Americano.
Interesting.
But here, I'm going to drop down to, I was thinking 7.8, but I think I'm going to go with an 8.5623. Yeah.
You went up as you talked yourself into that.
Well, actually, depends on if I.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I
I'm
did.
with you.
Yeah.
So last week I gave Juan Jimenez my highest rating of anything. I was like 9.7 or something.
Yeah,
like
it
that.
was.
And the only reason I didn't go a perfect 10 was because I have had another coffee that I prefer over that, or at least combination. So I can't. This passenger coffee is not bad. But I agree with you that in this format, with the combination of the Delight syrup that we use with, I'm getting aftertaste.
Yeah.
And it's not very pleasant. I keep drinking it to keep the aftertaste away, but the aftertaste keeps coming back. Last week I rated a 9.7. This week I'm going to go below 7. I really is not as big a fan of this particular cup. So I'm actually going to go 5.9 on this one.
Oh, okay. So speaking of
4.83.
So we're talking about integrity today. So
Yeah.
I just had this kind of passing thought.
Mm-hmm.
Is it racist that we're rating coffee? Are
I
we
hope not.
showing partiality towards certain coffee?
I hope not.
Is
I
that
think-
is that good integrity?
Well, look, I don't think it matters because there are some people that don't like Brussels sprouts and asparagus. That doesn't mean they're
That's
racist
true.
against certain vegetables. At least I hope.
I guess you're right about one thing.
What's that?
What you just said.
So a couple of weeks ago on our show, we offered a bag of coffee to folks who would email us and give us the most creative reason as to why they deserved this bag of coffee.
We got a good one.
I haven't even read it to you, but you were looking at me as I was reading it because I'm laughing out loud as I'm reading this email.
Yes.
And so we have some really good fans out there. And I'm just gonna read this email that came in. We're gonna give this coffee to Danita. Yeah, she emailed us and gave us an amazing email that was better than, and we received more than one email on this. Trust me on that. I would not be a man of integrity if I told you we'd only gotten 2. It's more than 1. No, I'm just kidding. We got several emails and they were good emails, but this one took the cake. Listen to this. Mike and Ben, coffee is fuel for the soul. I really need more coffee in my life as this will be a lifesaver for my family. While not personally for me to drink as I have never found the right flavor, my husband Marcus is the better person with coffee, especially good coffee. Of course, everybody knows Marcus. Marcus has been on our show before.
Is Marcus real?
Marcus is real.
He is.
Recently, he had been in a bad mood complaining. I really think that it's because he's been drinking hobo or bad coffee. I heard about the Thinking Cup podcast giveaway giving out free good coffee, and I really feel that this could save his life and bring peace to my house. It would save me because he would quit complaining about having to have bad coffee and give me some peace that I need. You guys seem to be experts on good coffee, and I know and I trust you to pick something good for him that will work magic. Coffee, the best coffee is like a prescription. I mean, this just keeps going on and on. I read that besides caffeine in coffee, it contains antioxidants. I mean, she's a nurse. This is reasons why we need to drink it.
Well, yeah.
She says that, listen to this. P.S. This is like legit right off my screen. P.S. I'm pretty sure that Marcus has a man crush on one of you as well. So, so by giving me the coffee and not to him, more attention can be given to me because I'm pretty sure I really need the attention too. So, Danita, congratulations. We'll be sending this out to you.
So that's Clatch coffee, but it's definitely going to come in clutch for that family. Danita, thank you so much. You are a raving fan. Amazing.
That was actually, there was more I could have read there. It was really good email. I really appreciated that. I expected, no offense, Marcus to email us. Marcus is such a great fan of the show. I really do appreciate him. And but then when we got the email from her and read it, I just laughed and I said, okay, we got to give that to her. All right, on to more important things. You ready to talk about something today?
I am ready to have a conversation.
Let's do it. So, Mike, when coffee shops closed up, we took our coffee conversations to the airwaves, as it were. Mm-hmm. We want to have meaningful conversations with the biblical worldview about things that matter to us. And that was one of the joys. We do this. We record for the listener at home, give a little insight. We record on Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. And we used to get together in the coffee shops and visit. And so the Thinking Cup podcast was born. Two guys.
Sometimes a third. If you include Marcus.
True. All right. Two guys, sometimes Marcus, getting together to talk about meaningful things to us. And we wanted it to be more than a passing hashtag or pop moment. It's about real life that happens now.
I feel like instead of where in the world is Waldo, we should just say where in the world is Marcus.
We could have a map each week with a little icon on him show up on YouTube.
Maybe we should do an entire show.
Where's Marcus?
Never mind. That's bad. We're degrading.
I'm not
very
sure
fast.
He's a biblical worldview.
All right. So this has always been fun to get together. It's truly been, I think, what we needed through the pandemic era. But as we're coming out of it, I have a feeling that we'll probably be taking this to some coffee shops and being able to engage the way we had originally thought about it. But we always want to keep, we talk about society and we talk about politics and religion and sometimes things that are happening in the world, but we always want to keep it, as a biblical standpoint, right? Especially as, both of us are Christian men with kids, and we lead in the church, we lead in the community, and our word needs to be something that means something, that has value, that's worth something. So let's jump into this conversation because we are going to change the world.
We are.
We're superheroes.
We're going to try.
Didn't you bring your costume? I brought my... Wait, no, I did. I did bring mine.
He brought Wonder Woman.
So it starts with us, right? If we're going to make change, it's going to start with us. So let's talk about this concept of integrity. What is integrity?
Yeah, this is really a good conversation. Where is this coming from as well? If you follow politics at all, we don't want to talk politics, but the reality is we live in a world right now where our politicians are promising us one thing and doing something else. We've seen this a lot recently.
I almost expect it to be the exact opposite, if I'm being very transparent. A lot of the times people, when they say one thing on TV or they say one thing, as they're telling us how the world's going to change, it's almost always the opposite.
Yeah, I've come to expect that as well. And English Oxford Dictionary says that integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. So it would seem to me that if you're telling me one thing and doing another, it's probably not very much integrity going on. Merriam-Webster says that it's the quality of or state of being complete or undivided. I think the Bible talks about being unstable in your ways. A double-minded man is unstable in his ways. It's the book of James. The dictionary says you have sound, unimpaired condition. And I like this one. Actually, believe it or not, I'm going to quote the Wikipedia. It says, integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles or moral uprightness. It is colloquial, a personal choice to hold oneself to consistent moral and ethical standards. So that's the top of the line of integrity. Where do we go with that?
Well, and as we were kind of thinking through some of this stuff, one of the things that kind of popped into my head is, if you take the biblical perspective out, how do you come up with the right thing? What is the right thing? And again, we can go all the way back to one of our original conversations about the Matrix and your perspective and how you see things, the lens that you see things through. But I find it interesting that most society desires high integrity. We want people to stand by their word, to be upright. From a biblical standpoint, which isn't too far from some of these statements, the Bible says it's a faithful support of a standard of values. That's kind of the overarching concept from a biblical standing. You see it translated as like being upright or unwavering. You see words like righteous, which is more like right doing. Righteous. But the key here, and it was stated in several of your definitions, the key here is that you have to have principles, you have to have standards. Those are the foundation of integrity.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, you're talking about having this standard, this foundation. I think for me, the Bible has to be the standard of faith and right living. Because if there's not, then everybody gets to decide, and if everybody gets to decide, then what you have is relativism and pluralism, and there is no right or wrong. When you have relativism and pluralism, you get cancel culture. So the next question we want to tackle is, how do we overcome this cancel culture and maintain friendships and influence with people who have different values and ideas from our own?
Well, and before I get into that, what you were talking about just a second ago, the fact that, you said we've got to have a standard of the Bible.
Yeah.
I get that, being that I'm a Christian.
Yes.
The difficulty of this conversation is that, what do you do if you don't have that standard? Where do you get your standard?
Yes.
And really the difficulty is, again, in order to have good integrity, you have to have standards. That's the fundamental, right? Where do you get those? Well, if you're not someone who's by the Bible book, then you get them from somewhere else.
Yes.
And sometimes those other standards are contrary to the Bible. They're difficult to understand. They don't make sense. They don't align with the rest of society.
Yeah.
And that's where we start getting a lot of this odd stuff, and you start getting people to say, well, you don't like my standards? Well, I'm going to cancel you then.
Yeah.
Forget, you're not being compassionate towards me.
Well, and you're bringing this up, this idea of, okay, if you don't follow the Bible. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you're an atheist now. What is the standard? I would make the argument that even the atheists among us in society, and it doesn't even have to be an atheist, okay? It could be a Buddhist, Eastern religion that does not accept the God of heaven. It could be a Muslim who accepts the Allah God. It could be the Jewish individual who accepts the Yahweh God, the Elohim God, by the way, I just make the observation that the Allah that the Muslim prays to, or the Yahweh that the Jewish man or woman prays to, is not necessarily the same God that I pray to. I pray to what I believe is a Trinitarian God, a Father, Son, and a Holy Spirit. Allah does not accept that, neither does Judaism. So we all have these different things. But within that, there's also what is called a secular moralism. And secular moralism is a value that doesn't necessarily find its basis on Scripture in the culture's mind, but it still says you shouldn't kill because that's not good. You shouldn't lie against people. You shouldn't commit adultery. People intrinsically understand that these things are not good things even within this idea of atheism, as it were. So when you talk about, so if we're going to use this as a foundation, and yes, for me as a Christian, that's very easy for me to go to. But I think we also need to understand that within cancel culture is about silencing the people who don't agree with us. And at its root, cancel culture is about power driven by the desire for more power. In reality, cancel culture is about self-involvement, right? You don't agree with me? I'm done with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so integrity looks past differences and focuses on possibilities and compassionate alternatives to create unity.
Yeah, cancel culture, my overarching thought of the challenge with cancel culture is it's an extremely selfish approach to kind of how you believe things.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make room for other perspectives, other concepts, other ideas. In other words, hey, here's what I believe. You don't like what I believe, then my way of dealing with that is I'll X you out. I'll cancel you.
Yeah.
To me, that's poor integrity.
Yes.
Because integrity is all about making sure that what you say lines up with what you do. It's right doing.
Right.
And so if we care about other people, then we're not going to silence their voice.
Right.
Even if their voice isn't in alignment with what I believe.
When did we become so insecure that we can't even listen to them and hear them out?
Exactly.
And hear their ideas?
Yeah. So I see cancel culture at opposition with integrity, irregardless of if you have a biblical worldview or not. It's just not doing the right thing, being compassionate towards other people.
Well, what if God canceled us because we had sinned against him?
Not good.
Warning, dumb dad jokes ahead.
No!
Hey, we tied last week. That means I'm getting better at this.
No!
I can do that.
No!
I get ready to tell jokes and I hear this one.
No, please don't.
They're so bad. We're talking about integrity today.
Yeah?
And I invented a new word for this
Nice.
conversation. Yeah, plagiarism. Go ahead. You know you want to laugh.
I ain't gonna do it. All right. So I keep having this one dream. I don't usually dream, but I keep having this one dream, and it's about a horse in full battle armor. I'm not sure what it means. Actually, it's probably more of a nightmare.
That was really bad.
Got you to laugh.
Yes, you did. Took my family out to Pizza Hut last night.
Yeah?
Yeah, we wanted to have some dinner together, and the waiter came over to my table, and he goes, I see you've got an empty glass there. Would you like another? And I'm like, dude, what am I going to do with 2 empty glasses?
I can actually see you doing that, right?
I'm a dad, man.
And then you'd be like...
How was that again?
So apparently we both went out to pizza, which is really good. So my question is why is plain pizza the best pizza?
I don't know.
Because nothing tops it. You know you
That's
you
not
know
a
you
good
want
joke.
to.
That's not a good joke. I've been telling you for some time I was going to write a book.
Yeah.
And so I finally, during quarantine last year, I wrote a book on penguins. In retrospect, it would have been easier if I'd have done it on paper. Yes.
I'm just trying to think how you'd read. How would you read that book?
You were trying to visualize that.
Because the penguins are like this, and you're like...
For those that are listening on the podcast, you got to watch the YouTube because
goodness.
Mike's reenacting everything I'm joking about.
So, last time I flew on the airplane, I showed my damaged luggage to the attorney that I was working with because, obviously I needed some help with getting everything back. I said, I want to sue the airline. Here's what the lawyer said. He said, you don't have much of a case.
It's terrible. It's terrible. All right, here's a riddle for you. I have 4 eyes, 2 mouths, and 3 ears. What am I?
What?
Ugly.
So I hate it when people say, this is good for you, because you
Okay.
even said this
Uh-oh.
before. I hate it when people say age is only a number.
Mm-hmm.
Age is clearly a word. I got you. Yes. Yes.
That is funny. All right, this is the last one I got for you. And again, 2 weeks ago, you told a joke about little people, so we're not
Yeah.
trying to be mean or anything. But
no.
what do you call a psychic little person who has escaped from prison?
Oh.
A small medium at large.
So here's my last one.
All right.
So my addiction with helium is like completely out of control.
Yeah.
But no one's taking my cries for help seriously.
That's actually really good.
Warning, dumb dad jokes ahead.
No! No!
We had a balloon at our house the other day, and Sienna and Sylvia and Dominic were sucking on it. And Sienna's voice is so young still that it doesn't make that huge of a difference. But I did it, and oh my goodness, it's quite comical. Then I had a headache the rest of the
I
afternoon.
couldn't take your cries for help seriously.
Help! Help!
Oh.
No! No!
It would have been higher, though, for you.
All right, let's jump back into the second half of our show and stop wasting everybody's time. And we were talking about integrity in the first half of our show. What does the Bible say about integrity, Mike?
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit. And what I wanted to say initially, because I referred to this in the first half, the Bible kind of brings up or translates the concept of integrity through words like upright, unwavering, righteous, or right doing. Okay, and it's all tied to having standards. And of course, from a biblical standpoint, those standards would be based on God's moral laws. How God has created us, how He's intended us to function, and we have people in Scripture that are associated with high integrity. People like Noah. Was high integrity, right? He stood up for things when other people didn't. I think people like Abraham, Jacob, Job, David, and this underlying idea from a Bible standpoint is usually comes across in this idea of being blameless. When we think about people, blameless or perfect, and again, perfect for us oftentimes kind of seems a little different. It wasn't really the same concept in our English language. What perfect? It's more like being whole.
Yes, complete.
Being complete, that idea. But I want to go to Jacob for a second.
Yeah.
Jacob's interesting because even though the Bible casts him as someone as being of high integrity, a lot of the Scripture talks about his deceit.
Yes.
So it's interesting that the Bible... I guess my kind of thought on this is that the Bible kind of sees or the perspective of what the Bible cares about when they think about integrity is very different than what the world would see as integrity, even though there are some cultures that they align in some respects.
I agree. And the world even sees integrity maybe from a sense of accomplishment. We see this in the political arena all the time. Politicians say, vote for me. Why? Not because I didn't lie, but because I got X, Y, and Z done.
Well, it was the right. I lied because I had to.
Yeah, exactly. I was doing the greater good.
I
or this or that.
had to protect the people.
It's fascinating. My wife, when she was in college, wanted to study law. And we've talked about the last 25 years of our lives together and things that we would go back and do differently. And I asked her one day, I said, hey, would you go back and do law? She goes, while I'm fascinated with it, and she loves shows that have to do with law, she's like, I couldn't do it because being a lawyer requires you to have to be able to lie. And maybe you're lying to the client, maybe you're lying to the judge, maybe you're lying to the person on the witness stand or whatever.
And sometimes it's just withholding information
Exactly.
that would be self-deprecating.
Exactly. And yet at the same time, does a person of an integrity find, and I don't know, because I've got friends who are lawyers who seem to be able to manage that just fine. now that we're talking about it, I think I would like to ask them how they do that. But the scriptures seem to talk about integrity without ever using that term. You mentioned Jacob, and clearly Jacob is. I was thinking about Abimelech. Remember him when Abraham goes down into Egypt and tells the Pharaoh that his wife is actually his sister. Well, he didn't lie, except that he did. Sarah was his stepsister or his half-sister, but he said this sentence in the context of deceit, which makes it a lie, even if it is the truth. But one of the things that I was thinking about, maybe the most famous command of the New Testament for Christian living, is found in Galatians. It says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires, and since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. So integrity brings out love. It brings out joy, peace, forbearance. That's a big fancy word, but you might use another word, patience, kindness. Are we responding with kindness, goodness? I mean, these are things that are lacking in society as a whole. I look at society and say, man, it's failing them for fear.
Yeah, and again, I want to draw the listener back to what's the core of integrity, no matter your view or perspective. It's standards.
Yeah.
Acting in a way that lines up with what you believe. You know, the opposite of integrity would probably be hypocrisy, which I don't know anyone that likes hypocrisy. I don't know anyone that enjoys. You know, I really enjoyed that experience with Bob the other day. He said he was going to do one thing, and yet he did something entirely
else.
Different. He's such a good friend.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it just doesn't. It doesn't matter your moral view, your religious view. We all, from a standard, understand that hypocrisy is something that's detested. Okay, I think the Bible calls that duplicity. I think. In fact, you even mentioned before. I think it was Proverbs 11:3 talks about that.
Yeah, the integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful ones are destroyed by their duplicity.
All right, so this dual idea, like you say one thing and yet you do another thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, good relationships can't function unless there's integrity in the relationship. You know, when I talk or when I consult with someone that's close to me and I express the deepest concerns of my heart, I expect that they're going to keep it quiet because there's integrity in that relationship. There's trust.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when you go to someone and you tell them something important and they just go spout it off to the rest of the world or to the church body or to the church board or to the whoever they think they're justified to talk to, that's duplicity. That's
right.
hypocrisy.
That's
and
right.
it breaks down trust. It breaks down the integrity of the relationship. And I'm just really grateful that for all the things I've told God in my prayers, that he's never gone and told someone else.
He's left
things.
them there. Yeah, that's really good.
You know?
I agree with that. So that brings us to our last question. Why is integrity important to the Christian life? I think you're kind of answering that. Integrity brings kindness. It allows us to be able to think beyond ourselves and in favor of others. And if we're able to look at the needs of others differently, then we're able to also at the same time look past our differences with a desire from compassionate understanding. Integrity ultimately breeds trust. And if you're breeding trust, then you're automatically breaking down the cancel culture. You're breaking down some of these other barriers that come between us and others. And it's really... I think one of the main building blocks of the Christian experience.
Yeah, I'm going to give a little different twist to this. I think, and you're going to hear some of this in some of our segments that come in just a second, but if we go back to, I know we talk a lot about the commission in the New Testament, okay? The commission to the disciples. I believe that we were actually given a commission in Genesis.
Yeah.
When we were created, we were commissioned to do something. Why were we commissioned? Because we were created in God's image.
Yeah.
And God's image has something that comes along with it. I'm going to talk about it when we get into, the word.
Mm-hmm.
But it says in verse 28, this is the commission: be fruitful and multiply. And so when we talk about integrity and what we're designed to do, part of our function as Christians is to multiply the image that God has made us in, not just by physical procreation. Okay, that's one way. But multiplying it in how we talk to other people, how we engage, how we assist the poor, the needy, the orphans, the widows.
Yeah.
How do we engage with other people? Are we imaging good, or are we imaging duplicity? Are we imaging hypocrisy? And if I remember right, Christ said quite a few things about hypocrisy.
Yes,
he was
did.
pretty adamant that he didn't like that.
He was more than adamant, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he even kind of overturned the temple tables.
It's not the word from the word, but you want a funny or an interesting definition about hypocrisy?
Sure.
The Greek word hypokrites means actor. So
That's good.
you can't be a person of integrity if all you're doing is acting.
That's good.
A word from the Word.
In the beginning was the Word.
All right, the word today is the word salem, the Hebrew word salem. I'm not a Hebrew expert, but we'll just say that's the way you say it. It's the word for image.
You had help with that.
Yeah, this little software called Logos.
It helped you.
So not only are we going to look at that word, but we're going to look at a small little preposition that helps to inform that word, which is the word in. So Genesis 1:26, then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the sky, over the cattle, over all the earth, over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Now, I would love to get into the back and forth with the plurals and the singulars, and again, I would encourage the listener to go look very carefully at that. Okay, that's not what I'm going to talk about today. The real question is, what does it mean to be made in the image of God? It's important that I think that we understand that you and I were created in the image. Well, which means that means a little bit different than what we might think it means, okay? It means that we can't obtain this image gradually. We either have the image because we're made by God, or we don't have it because we're not made by God. Why is that important? This isn't something that you can gain or lose gradually, okay? It isn't consciousness, because again, you either have it or you don't, right? It isn't your soul. You either have it or you don't, okay? It's not your breath. It's not your ability to make decisions. It isn't anything that's connected to your brain and the functioning of your brain. And a lot of people think that that's what it means. That we're created with the ability to procreate, or we're created with a certain physical feature that kind of resembles God. I would argue that that is not what the word means, because those are all things that can be gradually gained, okay? What about the baby that's a fetus that doesn't have consciousness yet? Are they in the image of God? Well, of course they are, right? Okay, so what is the image? Well, in order to find out, before I go into the actual definition, in order to find it out, I want to look at the preposition before image. It's actually the same preposition in as used in the word according. Okay, so in and according in the verse can be interchanged. So let me ask a couple of things. What would it be if you said, I'm going to put the dishes in the sink? It's a location, right? What about I wrote in pencil? Well, that describes kind of how you did it, right? Or I broke the vase in pieces. That's a little bit more of an action, right? What about this one? I work in the ministry. I'm created in the image. I work in the ministry. That's a function, okay? In helps us to understand what image means, okay? It's a function or a role. In fact, a lot of scholars believe that the best translation for this word across all contexts, if you come down to the very bare minimum, across all contexts, would be representation. To represent something, okay? We represent through being the image of God because we're created in his image. We're models, right? This is actually the same word that you get idols. Guess what? Because that's not the image of God, right? Okay, so it's a function. Imaging is a status. It's a role. It's a function both in the heavenly realm and in the human realm. Here's what's really interesting. Jesus Christ, is the only and has been the only true image of God, the perfect image of God. If you've seen me, Christ said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Why? Because he's the true image of God. He properly imaged and represented God to its full context. Understanding the best translation of this word, selem, or image, helps us to put into context how we should treat other people, how we should have integrity, how we should represent because we bear the image of God. Why? Because whether or not you believe in Christ or not, you still were created in his image.
A word from the Word.
In the beginning was the Word.
After 30 minutes of talking, these guys still haven't said anything.
Wait, you guys still aren't finished?
Hey, can I get a caramel macchiato?
One for the road.
And can you make it to go, please?
One for the road.
One. Here's one for the road.
And then we're done, right?
I hope so.
Right?
All right, one for the road. Mike, I just got to tell you, one of the ways we rate coffee, and it'll be on our list starting next week, is can you drink it cold? My coffee has just a little sip left in the bottom of it, and it's cold, and it's worse than when it was hot. I don't remember what I rated it at the beginning, but it's gone down a few points since then.
So should we give this one away next time?
Danita, you want to send us an email for Marcus again? Oh, my goodness. You know, we're talking about integrity today, and I came across a little tidbit that I wanted to share. We've kind of talked about adding like a little 30-minute blurb into our with crazy facts or crazy fact of the day or interesting information. And so I came across one. This goes to our conversation of integrity. In 1974, 75, somewhere right in there, North Korea was an up-and-coming industrialized nation. But at the time, they were still requiring a ton of foreign aid. And so they ordered 1,000 Volvo 144 sedans. They also ordered a few other pieces of equipment from Sweden. But the price tag on these 1,000 144 Volvo sedans and things that they got was a little over $70 million. A price that they still have yet to pay to this day. And so this is the largest auto theft in the history of the world at one time. And what really actually ended up happening is they ordered all those cars and then they just realized they couldn't pay for them. So rather than send them back, they just put them in.
It seemed like the right thing to do.
It seems like to somebody. For many people, and I would say myself included, having a life that matters is important to me. I've always wanted to be a person that made a meaningful difference in somebody else's life. And not just in their life at this moment in time, but in a life that hopefully will extend to eternity when Jesus comes. One of the reasons I do what I do as a pastor is because I am passionate to see people have that opportunity for a better life and a life everlasting. integrity is something that drives that, and I want people to know that, hey, when I say it's this way, it is this way. I don't want to be that two-faced individual who people say, well, was he in a good mood today, or which side of the bed did he get out on today, or so forth and so on. And the last thing I want to be considered is a jerk. The problem is that in leadership, we sometimes have to make decisions in leadership that other people won't understand. They don't have all the information. They don't have the same perspective. And so I just want to give the other side of integrity as well. And that is that when you know a person has acted in a way of integrity, that they have been honorable and just in their living out of life and their making of decisions and so forth, their leadership. The other side of integrity is to grant to them grace that, hey, maybe there are some decisions that they've had to make that they don't understand. I will tell you, from the position of leader and the position of follower, they're both challenging. We just came through quarantine, a time when everything was shut down and everybody was at church had their own ideas about how we do things. And I got called some names because I wasn't doing it their way. I would like to submit that that's even less integritous than the former. And so our challenge, I think, is to do what we were already talking about, and you've made it very clear to live in the image of God. And I would just hearken back to Galatians 5 again. The fruit of what you're doing, is it joy and love and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control? Because those are the marks of real, true integrity in the Christian walk in life.
Well, guys, that is it for today. After 30 minutes. No, just kidding. I won't go into that. Thank you again so much for spending time with us today, for making us a part of your playlist this week. If you enjoyed the episode, we would invite you to, number one, give us a good review, but you can partner with us as well. And the Cash App handle is on the screen.
Thank you in advance.
We're
getting close to that Breville.
We are. We're getting very close. So we really do appreciate all of you that take time. We don't take it lightly. So thank you so much for spending time with us, for giving us those shares and those likes. You can find us on Facebook, Thinking Cup Podcast, or online at www.thethinkingcup.com.
And Danita, I'm not sure who's getting this, but this will be coming your way. Enjoy it on mic.
We're just really glad that it's going to resolve some of the contention.
Absolutely. That makes us happy, and we don't have to drink it. We love hearing from you. Give us your feedback at info@thethinkingcup.com. You can communicate with us at our Facebook page. We appreciate you listening. Mike, I'll look forward to seeing you on here next time.